Street News. We're here with Mayor candidate Carnell Burch.
Ex-mayor candidate.
And we're going to bring out our second guest. We're going to bring out Herbert Lewis, who ran for city council.
How you doing?
Good, good.
So how you doing, brother?
I'm doing all right, man. Things are pretty good despite the being knocked off the ballot. You know, myself and Carnell Burch, we have an organization that we're trying to get going called the Political Process. We're looking to get 1,000 members so we can change the fortunes of people in the city who are being bypassed by the political process that's in positions of power now.
So tell the street news, what happened? Why did you get put off the ballot?
It was an oversight on my part. I didn't get enough signatures to ensure that I was going to be placed on a ballot. Going forward, myself and Carnell Burch knew that we were going to have some obstacles to face from the politics that were going to be practiced, and one of those was making sure that we didn't get on the ballot so the Democratic endorsed candidates wouldn't have so much opposition to face.
Okay.
So what would you do differently next time?
Well, I wouldn't. I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Do you plan on running again, or did you give up?
That depends. There's a lot of things that are up in the air. I wish to continue my education. I'm also working full-time, and I'm also at a grant-funded position with focus on families with the Niagara Falls School Board, and I wish to continue my education. So depending on how that shakes out and how things go with the upcoming mayoral election, I'll move on from there.
Okay.
Now, this question for, either one of y'all who want to answer it. I do a lot of reading in the Niagara Gazette, and it's always saying that the youth are involved in this gang and that gang, they're throwing up gang signs and all types of things. How do you feel about, are there any gangs in Niagara Falls, first of all? And if so, how can we handle that?
Well, first, you read the reason why, first of all, you read the wrong paper. You know, and if you read the right paper, you would know that, there's no valid, there's no validity to those stories, because if you look at what gang activities, you want to know what gangs are, take a 20-minute ride to Buffalo. They have real gangs over there. What you have here is you have individuals being either characterized as a gang based on the definition of what a gang is, which is what, 3 or more people walking in a group, wearing the same colors, or who proclaim to be in a gang. And that's what the problem is now. You have a lot of individuals, young kids running around here saying that they're in a gang. And unfortunately, that's all the police need to know. Because there's some grant money that they go after to deal with gang problems. And it's the money that they're after as opposed to actual gangs here.
Never knew that.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to. So in order for you to get this money, you have to identify gang issues. And what you have in this city is you have a lot of individuals, unfortunately they're young, where they're doing gang activities, like selling drugs, carrying guns, graffitiing all over the place. Those are all characteristics of what gangs do. But if you look at any gang, gangs are highly organized groups of people, and some of them are run just as well as Fortune 500 companies. So you don't have that here, because no gang member who's in a real gang boasts of being a part of or affiliation of some gang, especially to law enforcement.
I'm trying to tell you.
No real gang member does that. Like the law enforcement individual, they have to uncover that this person is in a gang. So there's certain things that they look for. But in Niagara Falls, you have all these kids running around here because they hustle, because they carry a gun. It's a group of them. So all of a sudden, they're more of a clique than a gang. We was in the clique. We just didn't carry guns or knives and stuff because we weren't into that. So there's no, validity to there being gangs here, but there is gang activity. Because if you look at what gangs do, gangs sell drugs, they fight, they shoot, they have turf wars and things like that. But in terms of actually an organized unit, an organized gang, highly structured, no, there isn't. And that's one of the main things that constitute a gang.
Just to add to that, a lot of people associate criminal activity with gang activity, and sometimes there is no correlation. Case in point, if there's a string of robberies that occur within a given neighborhood, people will associate that with gang activity as opposed to just criminal activity. And the difference is, when economic times are toughest, people resort to immediate ways of getting cash, and one of those is creating crimes against people and property, where you can immediately go around, pawn that item, get cash to support your habit, whether that's a drug habit or a drinking habit. We see this all too often with the arrest of Dr. Letma on Main Street. Now you have a group of people who used to be able to go get a fix for their drug habit. Now they can't turn to them. There were dentists who were posting on their doors that we no longer have drugs for painkillers, so please don't come in and ask us. And a lot of people are unaware of all that. So now that you have these people who will no longer go and get drugs legally, they resort to robbing and stealing. So when you have these people that resort to robbing and stealing, people say, well, look at the crime element, the gang element, and there is no correlation. Now, you got a group of kids, and I've said this before in my interview with the Gazette, that you have a group of kids that aren't bad kids. They turn out to be bad because they have nothing to do. So they end up doing this stuff in the streets. Whereas we had the 13th Street Center, we had the Boys Club that is up the street from us here. We had the community center across town on Center Avenue. Two of those places are closed. Now you have a group of kids on one side of town that can't get across town to the Doris B. Jones Center because they don't have transportation. And no kid's gonna want to walk a half an hour, 45 minutes just to be entertained for 2 hours when they gotta walk back home. So these kids hang out on the street. Now you have the city council that is directly responsible for closing down one of the venues that we played at as kids. So now what do you have when you have a group of kids that are outside playing in the street, and two of these kids end up getting in a fight? One gets a bloody nose, the police is called. Now all of a sudden that kid goes to jail, and that kid gets out and he has a criminal record. Now you take a kid that has a criminal record, he goes and tries to get an employment, and they see he has a violent conviction on his record, and all of a sudden he's marked. You're a felon. So the last thing anybody wants working with them is a felon. So now you have a kid at 16, 17, 18 who was ostracized from the rest of the community, and the only thing that person has left is the underworld to survive. We're talking about somebody that hasn't even started living life. So when you take the government and you look at all the waste that the government puts out, whether it's paying for concerts, paying for impact studies of things like what happened on 3rd Street, and that was a no-brainer. Why would you narrow your street and cut off parking for your business instead of on 3rd Street to make it more difficult for them to conduct business? But these are all the things that our elected officials do with our money, and then we ask, well, where's this money going? This city has a budget of between $90 and $100 million, and you mean to tell me that this city can't come up with a viable solution to put a place in this city for youth to congregate so youth can stay out of trouble? This is unfathomable to me.
100 million?
97 million. City has a $97 million budget.
And a lot of people don't know this.
So do you think there are absolutely no gangs in Niagara Falls whatsoever?
I wouldn't go that far and say that there's none, because if you categorize yourself as a gang, then you have to, as a law enforcement, use that as a credible source.
Okay.
So if you're talking about the level of functionality between gangs and what a gang is, I think that's what the issue is, because the police are saying, well, if you say you're in a gang, and these many people say you're in a gang, and you're acting and behaving like a gang, therefore you're a gang. We're going to treat you as a gang.
Okay.
But if you look at the level of involvement of gang activity, you have to question that, especially if you live here. If you live here, you question the level of gang involvement in gangs that's here.
Right.
Exactly. So, I had a question for the people on the panel, or however y'all want to see fit. Me, myself, I'm the president and CEO of Coastal Underground Records.
Right.
Also, Barbershop is affiliated with that situation there. And we also throw team parties for positive teams. And everybody that's affiliated with that comes through in and out those doors, daily and weekly. We get harassed by the police, and just like you said, gang affiliated, because we have a symbol. and it's called CU. And we got kids, they throw CU, and it's coastal underground. But they automatically affiliate that with gang activity. This is a gang sign. It's not coastal underground. You got rappers and everybody that do that on nationwide television.
Let me jump in. It was years ago. President Bush was president. What? 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. This right here. If nobody knows what this is, they would assume that this is a gang sign.
That surfs up.
A lot of people know that President Bush went to the University of Texas. This right here means hook 'em horns. But if you're unknowledgeable about anything having to do with signs, and I as a black male with my pants sagging, hat turned backwards, and a blue handkerchief hanging out of my pocket, you would swear that this is a gang sign. Why? Because you don't know. It's the same situation that happened with the 2 youths that was suspended from the football team because of a purported gang sign they threw up.
Exactly.
The Gazette, characteristically of what the Gazette does, ran the article but did not put a picture in the paper to show what these kids were doing, so you could squash any comments or disagreement about what the gang sign was. They suspended these kids without due process, and the coach didn't even stand up for these kids and say that these kids are good, upstanding kids. They don't partake in no gang activity.
Were they black?
I won't even address the racial connotation. I'll put it to you like this. I'll go one step further.
They were teenagers.
If these were employees of the school district, they would be suspended with pay pending an investigation. Why didn't the AD do that? Why didn't the AD take these pictures and say, you know what, we will allow these kids to play, we will examine these pictures, and we'll go get this verified as to whether or not these were gang signs, and let these kids play. And then if it comes back that these were gang signs, then you take the appropriate action. You don't take the appropriate action before. That's not due process. That's not what this country is founded upon.
Say, why is there so many problems within the black community with teenage kids?
Well, let me tell you why that is. It has to do with image. You know, if you cast a certain image, then, you know, if you cast the image as being a criminal, then that's what you're going to have to deal with. If you see me, if I'm dressed like this all day long, and I'm a 38-year-old male, and I'm constantly dressed like this, if every time someone commits a crime and they look like this, the police are there to do a job, and that's to protect and serve. And if every time I go out I'm dressed like this, and this is what people look like who commit crime, then this is who I'm going to be targeted. It's just like if you belong in an organization that has a neighborhood crime watch. And the neighborhood crime watch, you move into the neighborhood and you say, and they come to you and say, well, we love to have you in the neighborhood. We have a neighborhood crime watch program and we want you to participate in the crime watch program. We would like you to work Saturdays walking around the neighborhood, patrolling the neighborhood to make sure no one's homes are broken into. Now, you say, look, I don't have the time, I'm too busy, I can't do it, and you choose not to participate in it, guess what? You still benefit from that even though you don't participate in it, because these individuals still walk around and patrol the neighborhood, and you benefit from that directly. It's the same thing with the image. If you walk around committing crime and you have a whole bunch of people who are committing crime and they look the part, then even if you are not committing crime and you look the part, you're suspicious. So as a police officer, the police officer is going to target you, whether you committed a crime or not, because their role is to prevent the crime from happening. So we have to be more due diligent in our appearance, because hip-hop, rap videos, media, they display you as criminals. They display us as criminals. So it's more believable if I'm walking around dressed like him or Keith, that I'm less likely to be harassed by the police. Why? Because I don't fit that image. But like this, me walking down the street at a certain time at night, I fit the image. So their job is to ensure that there's no crime.
Street news have a lot going on here. It's getting real serious and real deep. We're going to go to commercial and we'll be back more with Carnell Burch and Herbert Lewis.